I'll never forget the day. I was in this very small town in Southwest Virginia. We were leading a retreat. We had gone down to a restaurant to have lunch. The property was sort of within walking distance. Sitting at lunch, I just felt the need to walk, to be alone, to sort out my thoughts. So I excused myself from the table and began to walk back to the retreat center. All I had ever really wanted was to feel a sense of belonging and community. And in that need, I was willing to erase so much of my personhood. In that need to belong, in that need to fit in or have community, I was so willing to concede so many spaces and almost do anything just to have some exterior sense of self anchoring and placement. Against that backdrop, as I was walking back to the retreat center, whatever you call it, I don't mind calling this voice God, the universe. To me, I understand the language of love and wooing of the soul. But what rode upon the wind that afternoon as I walked were these 3 words: live your life. And they might sound really romantic and exciting, except what I want to tell you is, when I heard those 3 words, I was furious. You see, I just wanted to quote unquote know God's will and follow it, be told what it was and serve. I wanted to be used by God. More than anything, I just wanted a place. I so badly wanted to be a round peg that fit into a round hole. And I was really tired of being a square peg and knowing I was a square peg, but trying to shave off enough of me so that I would fit in. So you live your life that afternoon landed upon my person like an earthquake, shaking and rattling me to the core of my being. I should have known in that moment what it meant was what I thought the next season of life was going to hold was not going to hold what I thought it was going to hold. And yet still so desperate to have that sense of belonging and that sense of purpose and community. I couldn't see that. I couldn't see that. Pause for a moment. In these spaces that we'll walk together from tolerating to transformation, I want you to take some deep breaths right here in this space. Notice your body. Notice sensation or the lack of sensation. Just as you can and how you can, find the space to be present to yourself. What would it look like for you to live your life? And pause. What would it look like for you to live your life? I'll be very honest. What my life would be especially these last 5-6 years, I didn't see coming. I thought I had put my time in my young 20s, late teens, young 20s. I had interned, I had poured my life into different constructs of faith traditions, and had gone from those spaces of intern, assistant pastor, church planter, working for a larger organization, being a training center, being this, being that. It felt like there was a trajectory moving forward. What I had done for 25 years was building upon itself step by step. There was this growth and expansion. I didn't see that would come toppling down. What I did hear in my gut shortly after these 3 words, live your life, was, I can't do this anymore. I knew I didn't want to live a life from a place of can't. I knew I wanted to discover and explore out what it would be then that I could do. But in those moments, I wouldn't have a clue. I would begin to take these very long walks listening to music. Jordan Sparks' song One Step at a Time would just come onto the playlist time after time. That season of life was full of deconstruction, trembling, and turbulence. Have you touched seasons like that? Where all of a sudden it feels like some of the things you've cared the most about are no longer front and center. They are no longer that which you put your hand to. Whether it's raising children and coming to the space of empty nest, or living a career and coming to retirement, there's so many of those transitions, leaving single life for married life, couplehood for including then children or more into that life. There are all these transitions we touch. How we navigate them, how we begin to form and cultivate and create a life we would actually want to live. That is the heartbeat behind From Tolerating to Transformation. That is the power and potency behind those 3 words, live your life. What would come forward? Good question. To understand the importance of what came forward, to really truly hear the words, I didn't see it coming, I want you to hold some space. If you're familiar with my story, then you know that for a good 2+ decades, I lived in charismatic evangelicalism. It's a conservative theological subset of Christianity that believes in the supernatural, in the spiritual world. But in that, there's a very formed ideology around good and evil. And in those spaces, most of that populace would say, and what I had been exposed to was, Christians don't do yoga. So when a therapist would suggest, try yoga, well, several things happened. I didn't realize how ripe the soil of my life was ready for seeds like that. You see, for me, I had lived a very disconnected, disjointed, dissociative life. Trauma had filled a good portion of much of my life, and I didn't live this coherent, spaciousness, calm type life within me. The picture that I put in regards to myself when I reflect upon that is I had scaffolding all around me. And that was to keep the construct of my physical person and being moving forward in life. The interior capacity of me to hold space, to live congruently in the world as a whole person. Even though I was mother, wife, leader, whatever it was, I knew how to play a role and I knew what would be expected of me. But the tank from which that was pulled from was empty, below empty. And I lived on fumes, always trying to figure out what the right thing to do would be, always wanting love and light and joy for those around me, even if they were foreign to myself. So a therapist would suggest, should you try yoga? Well, I remember my first classes feeling incredibly dumpy and uncoordinated. But what I remember more than anything were the words, "It is your body, your practice." And what I would say is nobody had ever said those types of words to me. Many hands had laid ownership upon my body, my heart, my mind. Nobody had ever said it is your body, your practice. And those words, those 4 words, would be entering into my body, into my being, and landing. And what would transpire in 5-6 years is I would go from student to teacher to specialist to yoga therapist. And I would come home to my body. Bit by bit, I would wake up. Bit by bit, I would be able to tolerate sensation. Bit by bit, I would unfreeze. I would defrost. I would learn how to rest and pause and reconcile more than I would step into fight, flight, freeze. I would feel the soles of my feet underneath me, and I would feel the ground underneath the soles of my feet, and I would feel real. Whether the story of the Velveteen Rabbit or Pinocchio lands more upon your person, either way, I would have this sense of a calm mind, cognizant of a physical body taking up space, and I would feel real, and the scaffolding would bit by bit be able to be taken down. It was amazing. What I would learn is, what are the voices I'm listening to? Whose are they? Are they mine? Are they others? Are they expectations? Are they who I think I need to be and what I think this role is? Or am I allowing myself to show up? Learning how to listen to myself, truly listen to others, the natural world and the divine, has been transformational. As a yoga student, when I started off, I would come to the end of my training as a 200-hour yoga student, and if you've heard my story, you know that in the section of the business of yoga, what would we call our company, I was sitting next to a beautiful friend from South Africa, and I wanted a word that embodied childlikeness, but what she gave me would be even more magical. She would give me the word Mangaliso, And the word Mangaliso in Zulu means you are an amazement. That would become my anthem. You see, I had lived so long in other organizations serving the celebrity person or the person at the helm that I had relegated to them or the organization amazement. And that I just got to belong. Like the tag along little sister, it wasn't about me, it was about them and toting them and their label. But Mangaliso would come in, and you are an amazement as an anthem would come in. And I would learn to claim and reclaim my life. And the reason it was important to me to put claim there was because for me in some of those moments, it wasn't about reclaiming. For me in those moments, it was truly stepping into my humanity for the first time. I would discover and explore out all that meant. While yoga would be new in the years to come, I would buy a bicycle after not riding on one for over 30-umpteen years, and I would go from country to mountain to city to ocean. I would take up kayaking. I would invest in my love for photography. I would come back to writing. I would ride a horse. I would look to the future and discover and explore and think, what is it I want to learn? What do I desire? Mary Oliver's words. What do I want to do with my one wild and precious life? And where the spaces once upon a time were filled with fear or I don't know or there's nothing, now they were filled with curiosities and challenges and inquiries and Google searches of how to learn scuba diving or going caving or writing poetry, or after years of wanting to create an online spiritual formation and direction academy, I would step into doing it. So instead of putting off to tomorrow, I would begin to grasp, I would find my expression, and I would expand into it. Bit by bit. When I think of those 3 words, live my life, and I think about those first moments where I heard them to this moment, man, transformation is hard. I've given birth to live babies 6 times. I know what transition is, and when you move from tolerating to transformation, there is a lot of transition. And that became a big part of why I wanted to create this course. From tolerating to transforming. Because we need the breadcrumbs of those that have gone before us. It's good to have conversation. It's amazing to have people in your life that can hold your questions. I did. In one season in my life, I had therapist, spiritual director, Episcopal priest, Lutheran pastor friend, and the list goes on and on. Because I had questions. Because I was curious. Because amidst so much deconstruction and no longer willing to tolerate, transitions were happening to the left and to the right of me, beckoning me to transform, beckoning me to wake up. But in those spaces, I wasn't left alone. In those spaces, I would learn how to find my own expression and expand into it. And music and lyric would fill my life. saying what I wanted to say, being brave, trying it out. So what's next, right? Well, for me, it's kind of funny. You see, part of my story is, again, I should now make a list of all the things that I wouldn't ever see coming and write those down and say, I think they are the things that are coming. You see, I was raised by this woman who, for her, camping, quote unquote, would be called the Holiday Inn. And, I had great experiences in that. I knew cities and great hotels and great restaurants and shopping. But what I'll never forget is when I was in grammar school, the bus route would pass this wooded lot. As an adult, I honestly don't know if it was a forest or truly just a wooded lot. As a child staring out of a school bus, it seemed like heaven. And I would wonder about walking on her paths. And I would sit in the woods of my backyard making mud pies, dreaming all kinds of concoctions in my head. You see the picture of this headlamp? It is the first purchase I made because I'm so curious about what car camping can be like, or what it would entail to learn how to scuba dive, or what I need to do and what I would need to get to go hiking and camping and exploring and discovering. You see, for me, I do not believe that camping is the Holiday Inn. And so step by step, bit by bit, I'm making inquiry. No longer tolerating the fear of the unknown and what would happen if XYZ happened. But turning that question, and instead of asking what if and allowing fear to be the most predominant sensation, taking the question, what if, and allowing curiosity to be the foundation, the sensation, the wonderment. We've spent some moments together. I want you to take some time now. Like I said in my intro video, go back to that list of tolerating and transforming. What could you possibly not see coming down the pike? What desire, what is beckoning you? What curiosity is calling you forward? What transformation is pulsing within you? When I first heard the words, I can't do this anymore, I didn't know what it would be I could do. But I have certainly, bit by bit by bit, watched its unfolding. And with that, I want to leave you with something, because we can begin to touch these edges and want something so badly that we want to see it happen now. But I'm not going to go on a cross the country road trip camping in my car right now, nor am I going to purchase thousands of dollars of equipment. I'm going to take it step by step. Rilke, in his book Letters to a Young Poet, writes these words: "Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Like locked rooms and like books that are now written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. Live your questions now.